All right, our last lick, lick 10, lap steel style triple stops. So this is taking typically a triad or a triad but replacing one note, with a more colorful note. And this is something that lap steel guys do. Listen to Don Helms with Hank Williams. It's so evident. Speedy West with Jimmy Bryant. And it's just something that I think as country guitarists and as country jazz and western swing, we just absorb and try and emulate that on our guitar. So this is how this one's going to sound. 1, 2, a 1, 2, 3, 4. A little slower. 1, 2, a 1, 2, 3, 4. So we're working up from, we have C, and then we have A7, so there's our third, the C sharp, and the B flat is the flat 9. So we're just moving these first two fingers up chromatically to get that A7 sound, keeping the G the same. Then when we get to the D7, we have an F sharp, so we're dropping the G to an F sharp from the A7. Moving the B flat up to a C, that's the flat 7 of D. And then we've got the C sharp moving up to an E, which is the 9 of D7. So C, A7, D7, and then we're going to keep the E the same and then drop the other two notes a half step. So we have E, B, and F, and that's going to be over G. So our G7 with an E, a 13. Flatten it, and this is just kind of like a G7 chord, and then resolve to a C6, C, A, E. So D7, G, down to C. So we've got C, C sharp, or excuse me, A, D, G7, back to C. And that's 1, 6, 2, 5, 1. So experiment with kind of what are the notes that change in all of this. It's C to C sharp, right, for the A7. For the A7 to D, it's G to F sharp, right, because we've got that goes there. And then we've got the C sharp goes down to a C, right? I know it doesn't lay out in these particular fingerings, but that's the half step change. And then D7 to G7, the C goes to a B and the G goes to an F. And then that resolves down to a C because it's the 5, right? So by looking at these things, we can find little half step resolutions that we can make our own kind of voicings from. So for instance, C, a voicing I like to use here, is this diminished voicing, which we have a C sharp, a G, and E, and then a B flat if we want to add in. It's not a triad or a triple stop, but we can add it in. And then, so we've got C, A7. Now if I want D7, I've got that right here. So I keep my E the same, and I move the C sharp down to a C, and the G down to an F sharp. Okay? And then, if I want my G7, I can do two ways. I can either come down and play G7 like so, B, F, and D, or I can move it up and play D, A, and F. So I might go or the other way. So that's kind of how I started kind of figuring out these different little voicings for it. We can do it, somewhat differently right here. So if I'm playing C, then I can play my A7 here. We've got E, B flat, and G, and then if I want to add the C sharp in the bass, so we've got, okay? And then this can move down to F sharp and A, right? Because here's our D chord. And if you don't know all these notes and like the functions of them, I would look at the chord shapes then, because that will help you, because that's got all the information in it. So right, there's my huge D chord, just normal D chord right there. And then, if I want it down to a G, there's my G, or just the triple stop of it. So I could go, and that's a really nice sound. So you have, and you can start combining them. You could go, right? And that's kind of where I think he's taking that idea from. So experiment with just kind of these half-step little movements to change the chords, and you'll be able to find that all across these top strings and use that to your advantage in your playing. So one more time, lick 10, the lap steel style triple stops. You've got 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4.